Hello and welcome to another Roblox scripting tutorial. Today I'll be showing you how to create some pretty good high quality admin commands for your Roblox games. Remember to like and subscribe as it does help the channel out a lot. Now first of all, this is going to be a series. Today I'll just be showing you how to execute commands. Then I'll kind of get into how to make a few basic other commands that are pretty high demand, like speed, flying, adminning people, banning, kicking, stuff like that. But the first thing I'm going to do in this series is just create the thing that's going to recognize commands and execute them. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a new script, and I'm going to do comment here that says services, and that's just a template for the script. That's just going to make it a lot easier to navigate your code. It's not necessary. Then I'm going to create a couple variables. First thing I'm going to do here is create a table of settings. So the prefix for the command, which is like what you could start the command off, that's usually a semicolon. Live people do a period or a slash. Some people even do something like /e so that the command won't show up in the chat after it's executed, but I'm just going to do a semicolon because that's what most people do. And I'm going to do a table of admins. And what you're going to do for this table of admins is put the user ID of friends or staff for your game. And first of all, what is a user ID? Now, a username is basically what you're identified as on Roblox. But you also have another thing called user ID, which is the number of accounts that have been created before you, but +1. So basically, your number on Roblox. And the reason we're going to be checking for people's user IDs is because people can change their usernames, but people can't change their user IDs. And if you want to get someone's user ID, you just go into your friends list, pick someone. I'll just click on this guy. And you see the search bar? You're just going to go up here and you're going to select that string of numbers, right click, and paste it. Well, no, not paste. No, not paste. I'm going to reload this page. Right click and copy. Copy it. And then you're going to go on here. You're going to do Control V to paste it in. I got those mixed up, but now it's good. Next thing I'm gonna do is create a folder that's going to be called commands, and also there might be a little bit of background noise. Somebody's taking a shower in my house, but I'm gonna create a folder called commands, and this is going to store a bunch of modules that will return functions for the commands, and I'll go into how that works later. But all we need to do now is do local commands equals, then I'm actually going to go up here, do local server storage equals game, get service, not bind to close, get service, server storage, because that's where it's located, wait for child, commands. Now I'm going to create some functions. Now the first function is going to identify whether or not a player is an admin in the game. And first thing I'm going to do is if game dot creator type is equal to enum dot creator type dot user, then now this might seem a little bit foreign to a lot of people, but a game has a creator type and a creator ID. Now creator type is what the game is under. If a player like me or you created a game, then it has the user creator type. But if a game is under a group, let's say a hotel group or something like that, then its creator type is going to be enum.creatortype.group. So we of course want the owner to always be admin in their own games, and we don't want to have to add our own user ID to the admins table. So this is just going to factor in whether or not you are an owner of the game. So then we just want to know if your user ID is equal to game.creator ID, then return true. And then this can do else, which means that it's made by a group of people. Because if it's made by a group of people, the creator ID is going to be the creator ID of the group. But, of course, the group is not a player, and we want to get the owner of the group. So what I'm going to do is, if player is in group, you know what? I'm going to do local group ID equals game.creator ID. Creator ID, if it's made under a player, is their user ID, and under a group is the ID of the group. And I'm just going to do if player, first of all, is in the group, and the player is in the owner rank, get rank in group, group ID is equal to 255. Then now we're asking this equal to 255 because when you have a group and you create a new role, you have to assign a number to that role to see where it falls in the group roles list, and the highest number it could be is 255, and that's the highest rank, and the highest rank is always the person who created the group. So it makes sense that their rank is 255 if they're the owner. So now I'm just going to return true like I did before. Now I'm going to do a loop through the admins table. So for underscore ID in pairs settings.admins do if player.userid is equal to ID, then return true. So that is going to figure out whether or not a player is an admin or not. Now what we're going to do is create a connection to when a player is added to the game. I feel like I did something wrong here. There we go. Connect function player, and I'm going to do if is admin player is equal to false, meaning that, well, you know what, we'll do if not is admin player, meaning they aren't an admin, then returning nothing just ends the script. So we're going to deny that they're an admin, and we do player.chatted, which is fired whenever player chats. I'm going to connect to that event. I'm going to create a new function called parse, which is going to decipher whether or not this is a command or just some random old message. Now, parsing is basically taking apart a string, in this case, a person's message, and then turning it into something, which is going to be an executable command. So what I'm going to do is local prefix. I'm going to create it as a variable since I'm going to be using the prefix at least twice in this function. I don't feel like writing it over and over again like settings.prefix. I'm going to do is command equals message match. And what the match function does is it recognizes a pattern in a string. Now put a link in the description to an article about string patterns if you want to learn more about them. But I'm just going to I'm going to do this exponent symbol, which basically just checks whether or not, well, it just checks the beginning of the string, and I'm going to do, you know what, string.format %s prefix. I'll also put something in the description about string formatting, since this is going to have a lot to do with strings, and it's a little bit difficult to explain. So basically, %s here is going to be replaced by the prefix, and so basically it's just checking if the command or the message starts with the prefix. So I'm going to do if is command, then local message without prefix equals message sub hashtag prefix +1, and hashtag message. Now what these tags do is get the length of the string. So we want to get the first character. So we're starting at the first character after the prefix, and then the rest of the message, just getting that whole message using the sub function. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to split the message, and I'll show you what I mean in a second. I'm going to do message without prefix, split, and I'm going to do a space here. And basically what split does is it returns a table of strings within a string that can be split up by this. So if I put that space in there, it's basically just going to get all words that have a space before or after them. So if I had a command, I did speed 100, it would have a table that'd have the 100 in it and speed. So from that, we can recognize what the command is and what arguments the person is putting in. An argument is basically like extra data to a command. So if you had the speed command, you do speed and then the walk speed that you want, and one of the arguments is that number that they want. Let me do local command equals split message 1, which would get the first index of that table, which would of course be the command itself. And then I'm going to do lower, which would make it all lowercase. Then I'm going to do local args, which is short for arguments, and that's going to be table. Now what I'm going to do is local I next equals I pairs, and a table like that. And I'll go into what I'm doing here in a second, because you don't really see anything like that much in scripting. And what I'm going to do is for underscore arg argument in I next split message 1 do. And what this is doing is, instead of just looping through all of the arguments in the split message, we're only going to loop through all indexes of the table after the first index, because we don't want to include the actual command itself within the arguments. So this is what we're going to do. And I'm going to do table.insert arguments argument. Now is the part where we actually find the correct command. So I'm going to do local callback, and I'm not going to give it a value because we're going to set that later. And I'm going to do for underscore module in pairs commands get children do if module.name lower is equal to command, then callback equals require module, and I'm going to break the loop and stop looping through. And what this require does is I'll actually go into that in a second because we don't have this stuff there. So I'm going to do if callback doesn't equal nil, meaning that we found the correct command. Then I'm just going to call it, maybe, or you know what, even better yet, I do xp call callback warn args. So basically what this is going to do is it's going to call the callback, but instead of shooting an error, it's just going to warn about what went wrong and not like break the code in any way. And that's going to be very useful for later. And this is basically just how we're going to execute the command. However, so that we can test it out and see how that's working, I'm going to create a new command by going to our folder here. Also, ignore this upcoming videos thing here. It's basically where I store all the scripts for videos I'm going to do soon. So you don't have to worry about that. And basically I'm going to select my commands folder. I'm going to click this plus icon, and I'm going to search an object. I'm going to do module, should be enough. Then I'm going to click on module script, and the name of this actually does count. I'm going to name it print, or you can name it to whatever command you're trying to make. So you can make speed or really whatever. But since we don't have the tools to figure out who the target of the command is yet, which I'll actually be doing in the next video, setting up commands with targets. This command is basically just going to print out all of the arguments, just so we can test the parsing function really good. And I'm just going to do return function args print table.concat args space, and this is basically just going to print all the arguments out, but only when we use the print command. So now if I play test and I do print hello world, it's going to say in the output hello world, which is actually pretty cool. Now in the next video I'll be showing you how to make some certain commands that are pretty high demand, like adminning people, probably speed stuff, flying. That'll all be in this series if you're interested. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.